Hi, I'm Maura, and this is the story of how I learned my place in my family, one birthday at a time. When I turned 15, my grandma gave me a necklace. A week later, it was broken, and then it was gone, just like every celebration that was supposed to be mine. It started with a necklace, but it didn't end there. Why does being the good daughter sometimes feel like being invisible? Have you ever been told to give something up because you're older and should understand? Let me know in the comments. I was 30 when I opened the old wooden box again. It had been years since I touched it, long enough for the hinges to groan in protest and the dust to bloom like a memory. Inside were scraps of a girl I once tried to protect. A dried corsage from prom. A crumpled photo of me and Delaney, both wearing party hats, both pretending. And near the bottom, nestled beneath a yellowed napkin, was the necklace. Bent, scratched, still cold. It wasn't much, really, just a silver chain with a chipped emerald charm and the letter M engraved small enough to miss if you weren't looking for it. But I had looked. Every year I looked for that necklace, even when I stopped asking for anything else. I was 15 when Grandma gave it to me. She didn't make a big speech. She just slipped it into my hand at the kitchen table and whispered, "For you, just you." That was important. Not the value, not the design. Just that it was mine. Delaney had been 5 that year. She watched with wide eyes, lips pressed tight until they trembled. "She didn't get anything," Mom had said, noticing. "Maura, can she borrow it for a bit? She's just a little girl." I was used to being the older one, the responsible one, the one who should know better. So I handed over the velvet box and told myself I could wait a while. A week later, I found the necklace on the floor of Delaney's room, coiled beside a doll's missing shoe and an empty juice pouch. The chain was kinked, the clasp bent sideways. The charm, scuffed, like it had been dragged across pavement. I didn't even raise my voice. I just picked it up, held it gently in my palm like something sacred, and turned to leave. But Delaney saw. She screamed the way only children taught they are the center of the universe can scream. Piercing, panicked, performative. Mom came running, saw the necklace in my hand, and scowled. "Maura," she snapped. "You're being dramatic. You're the big sister. This isn't a big deal." I didn't say anything. I just nodded and went to my room, the necklace still in my hand, now feeling like contraband. Later that night, I wrapped it in tissue and placed it inside my jewelry box. Not to wear, just to keep. A piece of something I didn't know I was already losing. A few days passed. Then one morning, I opened my drawer, and it was gone. At first, I thought maybe I'd misplaced it, but when I asked Mom, she didn't even flinch. "I threw it out," she said, her voice light, like she was telling me the groceries were on the counter. "It was broken, Maura. We don't hold on to broken things." That line stayed with me longer than the necklace ever did. We don't hold on to broken things. But I did. I held on to birthdays that were never mine, to apologies that never came, to dinners where I poured the water and passed the plates and smiled through full-mouth compliments meant for my sister. I held on to silence because asking meant guilt. I held on to space, but only the kind no one else wanted. After that day, I stopped asking. For gifts, for cake, for my name to be written first. I let go of the necklace, but I never forgot how it felt to be told without shouting that what was mine never really was. Now, sitting on the floor of my apartment, legs folded beside that same wooden box, I look at it again. The chain is still crooked, the charm still dull, but it's still here. So am I. "That was the first time I disappeared," I whisper. The phone on the table buzzes. A message from Mom. Family dinner Sunday. Delaney picked the place. I stare at it for a long moment. And this time, I don't reply. Some things don't echo when they vanish. Like a name said wrong, or not said at all. I was 21 when my birthday dinner turned into a celebration of someone else. We were at a mid-range Italian place, white tablecloths, bread baskets that were more air than substance, and candles that didn't smell like anything. My family had insisted on dinner together, something they hadn't done for my last 2 birthdays. That should have been the clue. Everyone sat at the long table. I was somewhere near the middle, between my aunt who always talked about her back pain and my cousin who posted every plate of food she ever met. Delaney sat near the head, of course. Bright-eyed, lip gloss perfect. She wore a sash that said Baby Sis in gold foil letters. She brought it herself. When the waiter brought out a single dessert with a candle, I didn't even reach for it. I was used to them forgetting how numbers worked when it came to me. Then Dad stood up. "I just want to take a moment," he said, holding his glass like it was a trophy. To Delaney, "Thank you for being the heart of this family. We're so lucky to have you." Claps, laughter. A few raised eyebrows from my cousin, but no one said anything, not even me. I sat there, hands under the table, fingers wrapped around the cloth napkin. I felt the wick of the candle burning behind my eyes. Not from the dessert, from the moment. No one corrected him. No one even noticed the absence. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I typed a message to my mom instead. "Hey, that dinner didn't feel great. It kind of hurt that Dad made a toast to Delaney on my birthday." She replied a few minutes later. "Please don't say things like that. It'll make Delaney feel bad. She didn't do anything wrong." No apology, no acknowledgement. Just the usual. My feelings were a problem, not a signal. I scrolled back up to the first message, reread it, wondered if I'd been too blunt or too soft. Was it better to scream or say nothing at all? It wasn't just the toast. It never is. It's the collection, the slow erosion, the little things that don't look like theft until you see the shelf is empty. There was the toy I picked at the store when I was 7, returned because Delaney wanted it instead. The trip to Yosemite that got canceled because she had an ear infection. My name left off a program. A gift rewrapped. A room repainted because she hated the color and I was old enough to not care. Each time I was told to understand, to adjust, to be the older one. They called her sensitive. They called me strong. But strong doesn't mean unbreakable, and silent doesn't mean fine. Now I sit on my bed, phone in hand. A new message lights up the screen. Family dinner Sunday. Delaney picked the place. I start typing. I'm not feeling up for it. I stop, erase it. I know how this goes. If I speak, I ruin the mood. If I show up, I disappear anyway. So I do nothing. Again. The comment wasn't meant to hurt. That's what made it worse. It came out casually, over grilled chicken and half-warm potato salad at my cousin Erica's house. Delaney had just been praised for finally showing up on time. Someone joked she was learning responsibility, and Delaney, with a smile and no hesitation, chimed in. "Well, Maura basically raised me." The table exploded in laughter. Even my mother nodded. "That's true," she added, sipping her wine. "Maura was more helpful than I ever was." They thought it was funny, endearing even. A light moment between sisters. I smiled because that was what was expected, but I could feel my skin tighten across my face, the way a balloon strains before it pops. No one asked me how it felt to be mistaken for the parent when I'd only wanted to be a kid. No one thought it might sting to be praised for giving up my childhood. Back when I was 12, my backpack always carried more than textbooks. It held diapers, baby wipes, bottles, emergency crackers for tantrums. I'd get off the school bus and go straight into daycare mode. If Delaney cried, I was the one expected to fix it. If she didn't finish her homework, I stayed up doing it. If I ever said I was tired, I was told, "Do you want her to grow up neglected?" They called it help, but it felt like debt I never signed up for. 1 week after that dinner, Delaney posted a TikTok. POV, you live with your sister but she acts like your mom, maid, and therapist all in one. The video was stitched with home clips. Me cooking, me folding her laundry, me sitting on the edge of her bed, rubbing her back after she failed a math test in 9th grade. It got shared, commented, laughed at. Mom reposted it in the family group chat with 3 laughing emojis and, "She's not wrong." I stared at the screen for a long time before muting the thread. Then I turned off my phone entirely. And for the rest of the day, I said nothing. I became a meme in my own life, a punchline they could all share without asking how the joke landed on me. They turned my silence into a brand, I wrote later that night, in a note I never meant to send. They mistook survival for servitude. I wasn't mad at Delaney, not really. She was just playing the role they had written for her, the golden girl, the star, the one whose chaos was charming. And I was the backdrop, always steady, always there. At the next family dinner, I sat across from Delaney. Her phone sat beside her plate, the screen angled just enough to show the camera was facing me. She didn't press record, but I saw the intent. For the first time, I didn't smile. She reached for her phone. I raised my hand slightly, not to strike, not to grab, just to pause her. "Don't you dare!" The room went still. No one laughed. All I wanted was a quiet celebration. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy. Just a table in the corner of a little cafe I liked. Brick walls, soft jazz, dim lights over dog-eared poetry books. I sent Mom the name, the menu, and a list of 5 friends. That was it. Small. Easy. She called back the next day. Chipper. "We changed the plan," she said. "Fun Zone is available that weekend, and Delaney says she hasn't been there in years." I paused. "Fun Zone? The arcade place with the pizza buffet?" "She loves it. You'll thank us. It's more fun this way." There wasn't a follow-up question. No, "Do you mind?" No, "What do you think?" Just a decision made, wrapped in the illusion of kindness. I told myself it didn't matter. I'd still see my friends. We'd still have cake. Maybe I'd even play one of those claw machines and win something ironic. But when I walked in on the day of my birthday, the noise hit first. Screaming kids, flashing lights, the smell of fake cheese and sweat. My name wasn't on the chalkboard sign. There was no reserved table with the small bouquet I'd asked for, just a long party table littered with plastic cups, paper hats, and half-eaten pizza crusts. Delaney was already there, surrounded by 4 of her high school friends. She waved like she was the host. I scanned the room. None of my friends had arrived. I checked my phone. One message blinked back. "Hey, did the party get canceled? We never got the invite." My list hadn't been sent. Delaney's had. I sat down anyway because I didn't know what else to do. The seat was sticky. Someone had spilled soda and covered it with a napkin. I wiped it off and tried not to care. Across the table, Delaney laughed loudly at something her friend said. They were already filming something for Instagram, filters, stickers, angles. One of them turned the camera toward me briefly, then away, uninterested. No one brought up my birthday, not even once. Eventually a cupcake was placed in front of me. No candle, no song, just a smear of frosting and a tiny curled flag with my name misspelled. Delaney leaned toward her group and whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "This is barely a party. Good thing I brought people, or it would have been dead." I looked at the cupcake. I didn't touch it. The lights around us blinked pink and green. Somewhere near the back, a birthday song blared from a speaker, but it wasn't mine. Later that night, I got home and pulled the unused birthday cards from my bag, the ones I'd picked out for each of my friends, the ones meant to say thank you for coming, for remembering, for caring. I put them in a drawer, slowly, one by one. Then I opened the family group chat, saw the photos from the party already uploaded. Delaney smiling, my name in a caption that didn't match the face. I hovered over the chat, deleted it, all of it. Then I whispered to myself, not bitter, just certain. Next year, no one chooses for me. I turned 30 that day. There was a party. At least that's what they called it. A pastel explosion in the community center's rented hall, with balloons spelling Sunshine Baby over a plastic table, pink tablecloths, paper butterflies. Every detail screamed Delaney, not me. She arrived last, in a white sundress that shimmered under the string lights. People clapped when she walked in, even though it wasn't her party. Or maybe it was. I stood near the cake table, feeling my stomach churn. 3 layers, strawberry cream, pink roses on the edge, flavors I never liked. I watched the candles being placed, counted them. 30. They shimmered silently, waiting. I moved forward when someone called my name, or so I thought. But then I heard his voice, my father's, clear and sharp. "Delaney, come here." She stepped into the spotlight. The room burst into applause again. My hands hung useless at my sides. And then he laughed and said, "She deserves the cake, not you." It landed like a slap. The crowd smiled. Some clapped harder. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or vanish. Delaney picked up the knife and began cutting the cake before anyone said, "Happy birthday." The first slice went to her best friend, then another and another, all giggles and frosting. My name, half smeared on the bottom tier, was barely visible anymore. One guest leaned in, asking aloud, Wait, is this Delaney's party? No one answered. No one corrected. I stood there, a statue in the corner of my own celebration. A child dropped icing on the floor. A dog barked outside. I noticed it all. I noticed everything, except anyone noticing me. They talked over me, around me, through me. I didn't get a plate. I didn't get a smile. Not even from Mom, who was busy taking pictures of Delaney twirling near the cake. I was the extra chair in the room, the +1 to my own milestone. Eventually, someone handed me a slice. It had pink roses. My name, barely legible, collapsed under the frosting like it had melted from the inside. I stared at it, smiled, handed it back. I'm full. And I walked out. No thank yous, no goodbyes. Let them wonder if I was just tired, or moody, or hormonal. Let them miss the warning wrapped in silence. I didn't pack right away. After the birthday party, the cake, the silence, the way no one blinked when I left, I stayed in my room for a week. Quiet, waiting to see if anyone would ask why I hadn't come back into the group chat. Why I hadn't said thank you. Why I hadn't smiled. No one did. So I told them I was leaving. It wasn't dramatic. I said it while standing at the kitchen counter, halfway through a cup of tea I hadn't even wanted. I signed a lease, I said. I'm moving out. Mom dropped the spoon in her hand. It clanged against the tile. You're tearing this family apart. Her voice cracked on the last word, as if the world itself had shifted under her feet. Dad didn't say anything. He stared at the fridge like it had answers written in magnets. I didn't cry. I didn't explain. I just nodded and went upstairs. That night, I got an email from Mom. The subject line, "Before you go." There was no message, just a photo attached. It was me, 6 years old, holding newborn Delaney in my lap. My arms too small, my eyes too wide, the hospital blanket barely clinging to her tiny frame. Across the bottom of the photo, written in red marker, "This is love, don't throw it away." I stared at it for a long time, then scrolled down. There it was, the real message, a paragraph of reminders, of how Delaney had always looked up to me, of how I was her safety, her calm, of how family didn't abandon each other, especially not when things were finally getting back on track. No apology, just obligation. I thought about the day that photo was taken, how they'd handed her to me and said, "You're her protector now." Not asked, told. I had been 6 years old, 6, and for 2.5 decades, I had carried that sentence like a chain. Guilt, I've learned, doesn't scream. It whispers. It frames old photos and calls them proof. It wraps itself in scrapbooks and home videos and birthday cards you never asked for. It hides in the line, "But you're so strong." It convinces you that staying silent is noble, that leaving is betrayal. But I wasn't leaving them. I was choosing me. I began packing on a Thursday. No one offered to help. Mom stood in the hallway, crying again. She didn't say stay, just cried, as if her tears alone could rewind what she refused to acknowledge. I folded my clothes slowly, taking only what was mine, not what I had shared, not what had been borrowed and never returned, just the essentials, just what I could carry. When I zipped the final suitcase, I turned to her. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm just done paying for peace with my silence." She reached out like she might hug me, but I didn't move. "This time," I added, "I choose me." And I walked out the front door. No one followed. I found out Delaney was engaged from a cousin's Facebook story. Not a call, not a message. Just a looped boomerang of her showing off a diamond ring next to her fiancé's car keys with the caption, "He said yes to forever." I waited. Maybe they were overwhelmed. Maybe the invitations were coming later. Maybe, though I should have known better by now, I'd get a call. A week passed, then 2. Mom said, "You'll get the invite soon, sweetheart. Delaney's just busy." I nodded, knowing already. But part of me still checked the mailbox, still checked my email, still refreshed. Then the RSVP emails started lighting up the family group chat. Aunt Linda was thrilled about the outdoor venue. Cousin Josh joked about needing a suit that actually fit this time. People posted gifs, countdown memes. I opened my inbox. Nothing. I texted my cousin Lily. "Hey, did you get an invite to Delaney's wedding?" "Yeah, last week," she replied. "Why?" "No reason." It wasn't a mistake. Still, I sent the gift. I wrapped it carefully, a silver necklace, simple, delicate, not identical to the one that had been taken from me years ago, but close. A quiet echo. Inside the box, I wrote on the card, something old, something new, something for peace. I mailed it 3 weeks before the ceremony, tracked it. It was marked, delivered. No reply, no thank you, no acknowledgement. Then, 2 days before the wedding, I was removed from the group chat. No more gifts, no more photo countdowns, just gone. I tried to text Delaney. Hope Saturday is beautiful, truly. The message didn't go through. I opened Instagram. Her rehearsal dinner was already being posted in stories and feeds. Delaney in white lace, holding a champagne glass, surrounded by bridesmaids in matching blush. The caption read, "Surrounded by those who've always supported me." I read it twice, then closed the app. The morning of the wedding, I didn't cry. I made coffee, cleaned my apartment, walked to the park and back. Later, I checked Facebook out of habit. There they were. Wedding photos. Everyone was there. Every cousin, every aunt, even people I hadn't seen in years. I zoomed in on one of the tables, counted the chairs, counted again. There had never been a seat for me. And yet, for the first time, I didn't feel left out. I felt done. I whispered into the quiet of my kitchen. I didn't lose a seat. I walked away from the wrong table. Then I closed my phone and let the silence hold me like something I finally owned. I didn't expect the call. That's the truth. When the estate attorney left a voicemail, I assumed it was about paperwork, some formality I was copied on out of routine. But when I called back, his tone shifted. "We've completed the reading of your grandfather's will," he said. "You might want to sit down." I did. "You're the sole beneficiary of the primary estate. Home, savings, stocks, all of it." Silence filled the line, but not my head. My thoughts ran, not to the money, not even to the house, but to my grandfather, sitting in his recliner that winter, asking if I wanted tea, watching me help him organize old files, never once saying anything about this. The letter came 2 days later, folded once, handwritten in black ink. On the top, for Maura. "You never demanded, you never made noise, but I saw everything. You showed up, quietly, repeatedly. This is not a reward, it's recognition." I read it 3 times before I let myself cry. At the post-funeral dinner, the air was thick with casseroles and polite grief, until Delaney slammed her water glass on the table. She manipulated Grandpa in his final weeks. That's how she got everything. The room turned slow. Eyes pivoted, mouths tightened. My mother shifted in her seat, but didn't speak. My father looked away. Someone coughed. I didn't flinch. I stood. He left it to me because I stayed when no one saw me. Delaney shook her head, lips trembling in mock betrayal. "Maura, he was sick. You took advantage." "I didn't take anything," I said. "You just weren't there to notice what was being given." No one clapped. No one argued. Just quiet, like dust settling after a storm no one saw coming. Later in the hallway, my father caught up to me, his voice low. "This wasn't fair." I stopped. Neither were the last 30 years. And I kept walking. I didn't look back to see who was watching. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat beside the window and let the quiet speak for me. The weeks after Grandpa's funeral passed in a hush. No angry texts, no sudden phone calls, just stillness. Not even Delaney tried to stir the air with a false olive branch. I thought they might argue, might try to contest the will, might reach out with apologies laced in self-preservation, but they didn't. And that silence told me more than their words ever had. They had let me go, and I didn't chase it. In my new apartment, the walls are plain but peaceful. I hung nothing I didn't love. No pastel banners, no shared space, no names carved where they didn't belong. The living room smells like lavender and lemon, not childhood expectations. The only frame on the console holds Grandpa's letter, placed beside a photo of me as a child. Just me. No sister clinging, no adult shadows looming. Just a girl in a striped shirt, grinning at the camera like she didn't yet know her name would fade. Sometimes I stare at her and think, "You're still here," and I breathe easier. One morning I write a letter, not to anyone else, just to me. "Dear Maura, You were never invisible. You were made to feel that way. You were never hard to love. They just made you work for it. Forgiveness isn't the goal. Freedom is. You don't owe them your presence to prove you have worth. Love doesn't come with fine print. I sign it in full. Maura Avery. No sister, no second mom, no borrowed titles, just me. On my next birthday, I bake a cake. It's small, rich chocolate, no icing flowers, no frosting names, one candle. I light it slowly. There are no guests, no group photos, no chairs I don't belong in, just me. And when I close my eyes, I say it out loud for the first time in years. Happy birthday, Maura, just Maura. That's enough. As I clean up, my phone buzzes. One missed call. Mom. No voicemail, no text. I stare at the screen. Let it dim. Let the silence settle over it like a soft sheet. I don't answer. But I don't delete the message either. Maybe this is closure. Or maybe it's just peace. I blow out the candle and leave the window open. The breeze smells like rain, but I don't mind. Sometimes the deepest cuts don't bleed. They echo. In silence, in birthdays missed, in names forgotten, in the quiet decision to leave a room before anyone asks why you came. I used to think healing would look like a confrontation, a dramatic monologue, maybe even applause. But healing for me looked like walking away quietly and meaning it. If you're watching this and you've ever felt unseen in your own family, I hope you know this. You don't need their permission to reclaim yourself. You don't have to earn love by disappearing. Sometimes, choosing peace means choosing to stop explaining. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a boundary that no one understood? What did it cost you, and what did it give back? If this story resonated with you, drop a 1 in the comments, or let me know where you're watching from. And if it didn't speak to you, I'm genuinely curious. What didn't land? If you found this story meaningful, subscribe to this channel for more stories that go straight to the heart. Your story matters. And maybe, just maybe, someone needs to hear it next.